you're alone in training. Sometimes training with others, pick your pace up. But it definitely helps with a lot of different things, not just getting stronger.
I think that's where, doing wrestling as a youth kind of helps you mature, right? You have all that alone time, being on the road, cutting the weight all by yourself, all that time to think. And, as a kid, you might think of it as this is monotonous and stupid. But then, as I get older and reflect on it, I realize how much molding and how much growth was done through those periods.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Yeah,
I agree.
Go into, not every kid, it's not made for every kid, or some kids are behind the curve and late bloomers. As a wrestling coach, being in that scene, especially dealing with parents are always trying to push the kid to go D1, always trying to push the kid to go to the bigger program and not see the whole picture of things. Maybe this kid doesn't have the academics, or maybe he just doesn't have that work ethic for Division I. As a coach, how do you tell a parent, how do you tell a kid, like, hey, maybe you should look at that D2 school that's giving you an offer. Maybe you should go to, Middlesex for a year.
Yeah, like I said, we get to learn our kids over the years, and they definitely trust us. They trust our decisions. I'm sure, parents that, some of these kids have grown up with us since they're like 6, 7 years old, and now they're ready to make a college choice. So they're certainly going to come to us and ask us our opinion. And sometimes they don't like it, but we're always going to be as honest as we can. And, sometimes they'll listen, sometimes they won't. Of course, they're going to make their own decision in the long run. But they do listen to the advice. And, the kids that have been with me over the years that believe in what I have to say, they'll definitely take my advice because they know I have their best interest.
For the ones that don't listen to you and things kind of go awry, have you ever had them come back and say, you were right, we really should have listened to you?
Sure, definitely. And, I've had kids drop out, or kids that I had a kid at Drexel a couple of years ago. He just, he's blaming it on everything why he stopped. But, he just knew he wasn't cut out for it. And he had a great Division III school staring at him up by New Hampshire up there. So, he elected to try to D1, and, it just didn't work out. So, he's still in school. He's still doing well. So that's the most important. Use wrestling to get an education. But you certainly don't want to lose a scholarship over it,
I had met you, and we got to, get to know each other through Middlesex County College, like I said before. What are your thoughts on the benefits of junior college wrestling and just, junior college wrestling as a whole?
Man, it's so fun when you talk about how expensive college is and it just, goes up and up and up. I feel like you just save so much money if you just hold back, wrestle those 2 years JUCO. If you're not going to get a scholarship and you're trying to be a walk-on, it's almost like, what is the point, man? It's like I might as well go to Rutgers and just do club wrestling. If I just want to go there and get an education. Otherwise, start at JUCO and work your way up. I think Rich Lewis is like the prime example we have in our area. Of going to Iowa Central a couple of years, doing well and kind of climbing the ladder. And look how well he's done. But I could save a ton of money with those 2 years.
It's definitely a huge thing. I went away to school my first year and then came back and went to junior college for a year. And, just for a lot of people, the maturity level, on so many different levels, be it, being responsible for yourself, going to class, taking care of your stuff. At 18 years old, you know what I mean? Some kids just aren't at that level already there.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. That's a great point. Yeah, just getting yourself ready to be away from your parents and everything else.
Yeah, get yourself ready. Maybe go to community college, get a job, so you have that sort of structure built into it. You're taking on some more responsibilities, but at the same time, you still have some of those comforts, and gives you a chance to ease into things. And again, like you were saying, if you're not getting that full scholarship offer, you're better off because of the way how much four-year institutions cost at this point. You're better off going to the junior college to save that money.
Definitely. If you're getting a scholarship and you're paid the rest, there's nothing like that. You got to do what's required. But if somebody not on scholarship, I just don't understand why more people don't do it. I know everybody's got different situations. Like, I know some people, like Rutgers is a nearby college. Some parents work for Rutgers, so they get to send their kids there for free. So, of course, they're going to do that, which makes perfect sense. But most people don't have that situation, but they could be saving a ton of money. A lot of them look at, my kid got into Rutgers, I'm going to send them, and now you're like $70,000 in a hole like the first 2 years.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes back to ego, or thinking you're above or better than that junior college or the community college, or there's like a stigma to it. I know, growing up in Ocean County, the kids would always joke calling it like Ocean County High School, because they viewed it as you weren't, it's kind of like back in the day for me too. I think we were about the same age, but people kind of looked down at going to vocational school at that time, whereas now it seems like it's more maybe not celebrated, but it's encouraged, and having a trade is a good thing, or being an electrician or a plumber, or some of these things are important. Like, we need mechanics, and you like cars, so let's foster and encourage you to continue to learn how to work on cars.
Yep. And I remember when Jimmy was at Middlesex, I was coaching him. We had a lot of like state champions coming in, state place winners. They thought they were the shiznit, and then we'd go out to Binghamton and wrestling. Like, what do you mean? I got Jordan Lean first round from Cornell. Like, they're in shock, and they're getting spanked. They're 0-2, and next thing you know, they're quitting a few weeks later. Some of these guys, they had no idea what they were getting into. So, whatever level of college wrestling you're in, you're going to get competition, and it's going to be rough. So, a lot of people do look down on it going in because they just don't understand it,
Yeah, and I think that's another thing, misconception with the junior college, community college sports programs is I don't get that. I'm not going to get the level of competition that I would at, say a Division II or Division I school. But oftentimes you're going to the same tournaments, or in my case, we were going to the same meets where, I may have had an OCC jersey on, but I was still lining up with, schools from New York that were Division I, Division II schools. So you still get those levels of competition, and sometimes if you're not ready for that, you get your butt kicked, and you realize that competition, you can find that competition no matter what moniker, Division I, JUCO, whatever it is. Competition's out there, and the coaches are going to get that for you.
Oh, certainly. And now girls wrestling's getting huge out here.
Yeah, we just had my college coach from Monmouth University on. We kind of planted the seed for him to plant the seed to the athletic director at Monmouth University that Monmouth University needs to be a trendsetter and be the first school in New Jersey to have women's Division I wrestling.
Yep. Awesome.
So with the female wrestling and the girls wrestling, is there a boost in girl members at the club?
Yeah, there definitely is. Yeah, I was always, over the years, I was always coaching like one or two, and now I got about 6 or 7 signed up. So it's definitely a big increase. I know Elite Wrestling, they have like a whole girls team, a club that's nearby, and they travel all over the place. So I'm looking to increase my numbers even more, but I get a lot of drop-ins and stuff like that. And when I do freestyle classes, I'll definitely see a lot more girls.
Now,
I definitely noticed a significant difference. Are
the girls wrestling with the boys, or are they just wrestling with each other?
No, they wrestle with the boys, and I got some girls that are pretty darn tough. I have one from neighboring town that she just placed out in Fargo. She whoops a lot of the boys, so they learn to respect her.
How does that go over with the parents? Are there any male parents that don't want their sons wrestling with girls, or is it a pretty open-minded situation?
I think it's definitely changed a lot. It's come a long way. Wrestling, it is one of those blue-collar, tough sports, so you do get some of those parents that are, pretty hardcore, like my son can't lose to a girl type thing, but, you could see them maybe grimacing in the corner, but yeah, they've learned to accept the girls up there, and they know there's some tough ones. They know they work hard too, and they deserve that.
Yeah, no, for sure. There was a boy here in Colorado at 101 or whatever weight the lightest weight was, who he forfeited because he said he didn't want to wrestle a girl. And he was a senior too, so he gave up the opportunity to potentially be a state place winner or state champion because he didn't want to wrestle a girl.
Wow.
And then the girl went on to the girl went on to get third or fourth, I believe.
Yep. Wow.
Gene, you were someone, kind of go back to the junior college and kind of lessons you taught me. We were sitting in the stands at JUCO Nationals, and Tom Ryan was there with Tommy Rollins, and I was being a wrestling fanboy, and oh my God, Tom Ryan. And you had worked with Tom Ryan when Tommy Noto was at Hofstra, and you kind of just looked over and was like, you know, you need to stop giving these dudes so much respect and kind of realize that these dudes are humans just like you. That's, you know, it's not that when you go out there you're losing because these dudes are better than you. You're losing because your mindset's not right. And you know, you were the club coach of the Zanetti brothers who have wrestlers' mindset now. Kind of what got you?
The CJA guys,
yeah. What got you into the teaching mindset and kind of looking at wrestling more than just technique and what goes on the mat?
I think when I started training kids, when I started coaching, that was when I realized I want them to do things that I didn't do, or I don't want them to make the same mistakes that I made. So it's always, everything's trial and error as a coach and as a wrestler and in life. So I just took all my lessons and I tried to apply them to help the kids. So one lesson, I'll give you a quick example. I always made a list of people when I was in high school that I had to beat. So I lost to a handful of kids in high school. And, this one kid I had, he was a state champ, Brent Conley. I ended up wrestling at the top of the East.
Del Val.
That's Beast of the East now, but it was called Top of the East back then. So I was wrestling him for in the semis. And he ended up beating me like 4-2. And I was like, man, I was right there, But I was always like, oh, I'm right there. But I've never beaten the best kids. The next year I lost to a kid, Ken Rossi. But I always make a list of kids that I wanted to beat. And I would always train and go for a run and, look down the end of the block and start yelling their name and run after them, like little things like that. So I was training really hard, but I always put them above me. And that was always the problem, So I felt like, when I had Noto, I was like, we ain't looking up at anybody. They're going to look at you. We're not going to make a list. You're going to be on top of that list. Let them look up at you, and that's the way we always treated it. And it worked for him. And fortunately, he was my first guy. And I've been doing that ever since. Kind of like the Rocky crumbles up the Drago, right? He sees the picture of him and he crumbles it up. It's like, I don't need this anymore. I'm better than him. So that's kind of what started it all right there, was I was doing things the wrong way. And then, the Zanetti brothers, oh man, they took off with wrestling mindset. And Tom Noto's brother, Chris, he's actually doing a head sharp, which a lot of people in my area are doing. So the mental thing's out there now. It's getting like wrestling clubs. There's more and more popping up. But those guys are all the best.
What was that second one you just mentioned?
Oh, head sharp. Yeah, most of my kids actually go to him. Wrestling mindset is huge. They're doing a phenomenal job. Really proud of those guys. They were some of my original kids I trained right after Noto. But Tom Noto's brother, Chris, he runs Head Sharp. He deals with a lot of wrestlers. He has an app out that people can go on, and you just purchase the app, and I think it's like a monthly fee. But definitely want to check out Head Sharp. It's awesome.
All right.
Yeah, I like what you said. It was just, perspective. Instead of worrying about those guys and focusing on those guys. And those two gentlemen you mentioned, I grew up watching their state finals on repeat. They were both state champs.
Yeah.
So, just changing that mindset and be like, no, I'm the guy. I'll let them worry about me. One thing we used to do when I was at Middlesex, and used to give me some crap about it, but I used to not read the bracket, right? That first time up, not worry about who I'm wrestling, right? If I'm going to win this, I got to go through everyone anyway.
Yep. Yeah, and that we have all these, mindset coaches and stuff, and there's so many different ones out there now. There's just so much more knowledge for these kids. They have it at their fingertips, but it's up to the kid to take advantage and work. Somebody like you, Jim, you take advantage of every resource you could to be the best, and that's what it boils